Hello, everyone. This is Faith at Faith and Books. How are you doing? How is your summer going? July is almost over. We just got back from a week at the beach. We got back on Saturday. This is Monday morning. And it was a very nice time. It was, if I was ranking all my beach vacations, it wouldn't be at the very top because it was cool and rainy a lot of the times. And also we were there with two grandchildren, and 2-year-olds have a hard time adjusting to a new place and sleeping in a new bed and that sort of thing. And so they weren't at their best. So I felt sorry for the parents. They were really tired because sleeping wasn't going on enough. So I feel like we didn't really get that much done. However, it was still beautiful and it was still a nice break. And I just love the Outer Banks. And I only finished one book since last time I made a video. But I read this book, The Outermost House by Henry Beston. And I have been meaning to read this book for years. And I finally got it done. I don't know why it took so long. It's a lovely read. It's about a guy who built a little house. It was the outermost house, the very last house on Cape Cod, the Cape Cod Peninsula. This was back in the 1920s. So he built this tiny house, and it was supposed to be like just his little summer place. But one year he decided not to leave, and he spent the whole year there, and he obviously kept a journal of his time. And it's just a love letter to Cape Cod. He writes beautifully. He's such a nature lover, especially birds. He's an avid bird watcher, and he knows so much. And he's just a beautiful writer, just very good at descriptions. But it's simple. There's nothing pretentious about it. He comes off as a really nice guy. He talks not only about the flora and the fauna and the ocean and everything, which he talks about beautifully, but he talks about the people that live on Cape Cod, and especially the surfmen or the coast guards along there, and the wrecks that happen in the middle of these horrible winter storms. So it was just a lovely, lovely book, and I recommend it. And it's kind of a classic of nature writing. And I don't know why it took me so long to finally read it, because it's not a hard read at all. And I just loved his descriptions. It was just a very good thing to read while you're at the beach. Even though he's there the whole year, it is a good summer beach read because so much is about the ocean. So I really enjoyed it. And in fact, it inspired me to write a poem. Every once in a while, I would write poems in my life, but I haven't written one in a couple of decades, I think. But one morning, so my usual habit when I'm at the beach is to get up, have a cup of coffee, and go sit out and look at the water and pray. But I couldn't find my prayer book. Of course, you don't need a prayer book, but my usual habit is to use a prayer book. I couldn't find it. I'd mislaid it because it's kind of chaotic with all the other people and the kids and everything. And so I was just sitting there, and this poem just welled up out of me. I better turn this light on. Let me see if this works. Oh, ooh, is that okay? I'll just turn it on for while I'm reading my poem. So I'm going to subject you to this poem I wrote. And I've titled it Love Letter to the Outer Banks. And I just love to sit and look. I'm not a surfer. I'm not a swimmer. I just like to sit on the beach and look at the water, or walk on the beach, or read on the beach. Those are my beach things. But I love it. It's like nature bathing, right? That's the term they give it now. But it's just so relaxing, and everything's so beautiful. Anyway, this is the poem that just sort of came to me. I couldn't even find a pencil and paper to write it down on, so I had my phone, so I texted it to myself. And I've edited it a tiny bit, but this is how it just came to me. It sort of came to me whole as I was sitting there staring out as the sun was rising. I love the brown pelicans that skim along the swells of waves in tidy formation like graceful pterodactyls. They move southward along the beach. Meanwhile, a pod of dolphins, northward bound, smoothly undulate to reveal their battleship gray dorsals against the Coke bottle green sea. Out at the horizon, there is a drama going on. A towering black thunderhead is pouring rain down in one spot, with jagged lightning stabbing the sea. I love the grand water stage before me, so expansive, and always the roar of the surf, the waves build and swell and crest and crash, and receding with a rushing sound, they leave for me, standing little on the shore, a tiny, perfect white seashell. And that actually happened. I found a tiny, perfect white seashell. So that's my poem, Love Letter to the Outer Banks. So yeah, so this is a good book if it can inspire you to write a poem after 2 decades of not having written a poem. So the other thing that went on is that my son, my oldest son, was there, and he really wants to read the Aeneid. So we actually started, but we only read the first 2 books. But our plan, I think when we start up again, I told him when he had the time, we would start up again. We originally planned this for August, but he wanted to start it early. But he's going to tell me when he can start it up again. We're going to try to read one book per 2 days. So I think somewhere on book 2 there is a Aeneid in August going on. I'm not quite sure who's hosting that, but I heard about that a while back with let me turn this off. When I was doing the Rome thing. Can you see me? Is it too dark? Anyway, look, sea wanderings and strange meetings. I forgot how good the Aeneid is and how much I enjoy it. It's really not that hard to read. It takes a little bit of focus, but it's actually quite, I guess this is a really good translation, but Virgil was a captivating writer, and it's quite lovely. So I'm looking forward to picking this up again, and I think this is going to be a major focus in August, reading the Aeneid with my son. It's kind of fun to buddy read with my son. So yeah, so I started that. That's a little bit on hold until he's ready to start up again. Then I'm reading a bunch of things right now. So after I finished The Outermost House, I started Secret Water. So I bought this last summer after I finished the last book in this series. I think there's, how many? I always have to look. Are there 12 books in this series? I can't remember. I think this is either 7 or 8. And it's so nice to be back with the Walker children. These books, this one I think was published in 1937. These are by Arthur Ransom, and he's very well known for his Swallows in Amazon series. And it's about the Walker children and all their explorations, their friends that they make with the, what are the other kids' names? The D's, I can't remember, Nancy and her sister Peggy, I think. Well, anyway, they're not featured so much in this yet. It's just the Walker kids. And they get, their parents maroon them on an island, and they have to survive and make a map of the territory until they are rescued. So they love to camp and sail. And it's just wonderful. These kids are doing all these wonderful things all on their own. They're very, very competent and self-sufficient, and Arthur Ransom is a wonderful writer. There's a wonderful, wonderful children's series that adults really can enjoy as well. Very nostalgic. There's something very nostalgic about it. So I'm so happy I'm finally reading this. It's lovely. And I'm still reading the Babe Ruth biography. I'm at 71%. Very interesting. A lot of the books that I've been reading, like this one too, they're all set in the 20s. And then I finished that, We Shook the Family Tree, that was set in the 20s. So this is also Babe Ruth, 1927 was the Yankees' big year where he did 60 home runs in a year. And so, yeah, I'm going to talk about this book and Babe Ruth later. But it's interesting. I'm enjoying it. So that's my Kindle read at night. And then I've been buddy reading essays with Christy Lewis. We haven't quite, hopefully we'll do this before the end of July. I'm not quite sure. We have talked about the first one. I read the second one. I don't know if she's gotten to it yet, and we still have the third one. These are really short. You can just sit down and read them in half an hour, maybe even less. So yeah, so this has been a buddy read. I'm really appreciating Wendell Berry, and I want to read more. Maybe I'll read other essays in the book because he is really interesting. I like his perspective on things, and he's thought-provoking. And I'm still reading this. I think I'm behind the other ladies in the group read, so I have to catch up. I read a little bit yesterday, and I plan to read more today. So yeah, I'm going to work on Vincent van Gogh. And this is also extremely interesting. Yeah, I'm enjoying that. And then I finished Romans, Paul's epistle to the Romans, and now I'm on to the First Corinthians. And I have to say, Romans did something for me. It reconvicted me in my Roman Catholicism, because there's a lot in Romans that I found hard to understand. And it just made me like the fact that I can rely on the interpretations handed down from the early church fathers on different aspects of salvation and justification and that sort of thing. Because I think a lot of that's where it's the Catholic view splits from a lot of Protestant views, especially like Calvinism. And I really appreciate the antiquity and the pedigree of the Catholic view of these things and interpretation of these things. So it really kind of, it really reconvicted me. So reading Romans humbled me, because I realized that I couldn't figure out what he was talking about. And I really wanted to rely on a reliable authority to explain it to me. But there were some chapters that really shone and were a lot clearer than others. So I enjoyed reading Romans. I'm enjoying Corinthians more. I just read up through chapter 5, so I'm up to 6 tomorrow. I'll start chapter 6 of 1 Corinthians. So I'm enjoying reading Paul's epistles, and then I'm back to reading the Lord, but I only have a couple more days left. How many more days left in July? This is the 29th, so today, tomorrow, and okay, I have 3 days, and I have to read six chapters to finish part 1. So I could do it. They're not long chapters. I just have to focus. Wait, am I right? I'm looking through here to see when is the next book. Yeah, and that, so I just have a few more chapters, and then part 3 will be read in August. And just really quickly to talk about August, I am going to be reading the next part of the Lord. I'm going to continue to read Paul's epistles, and I'm going to continue to read Vincent van Gogh. Like all those 3 are going to continue into August. I'll finish Babe Ruth whenever I finish it. I'll finish Secret Water whenever I finish it. So the 2 newer main things is, of course, the Aeneid, which I got a little bit of a head start on. And in August, I'm going to try to read the Gulag. I can never say this right. Archipelago. Is that how you say it? Archipelago. The Gulag Archipelago. I'm going to try to read this. It's very thick. I'm not going to, but so what I'm doing is I'm going to read the first half in August and the second half in September, because Christy Lewis at Dostoevsky in Space is hosting Red September, where the focus is on nonfiction reading of communist Russia and its satellites. So we figured we'd get a head start and get some read in August so that September wouldn't be too overloaded. So that's my plan. So I'm reading that, the Aeneid. Those are 2 pretty heavy duty stuff. And then all the other things I listed. So pretty good. And then eventually, as soon as I'm done with Secret Water, which is my light read, I'm going to go on to the next Miss Marple. All right. So I hope you're doing well. I hope your reading is going well. And those are my plans. Tomorrow, I'm going to try to do my Live Like Jane Austen for a day. Because at the beginning of July, this is Sustainability July for me, I was going to do it twice. And July flew by. I don't know what happened. So tomorrow, I'm going to live like Jane Austen for a day, which means no electricity, no internet, no hot water unless I heat it myself, no driving. I think I'm just going to do a lot of housework and, whenever I have the light, read a lot. And I'm going to try and get my husband to teach me cribbage. He bought me a cribbage board because I was complaining. When we first got married, he started to teach me cribbage and then he dropped it. And we have never, ever, I just remembered this incident from early in our marriage. And so he bought me a cribbage board and he said he's going to teach me how to play it. And so I'm hoping that tomorrow he will teach me. Okay, all right, so that's my, and I guess I'll only get one Live Like Jane Austen for a day in July. I wanted to get 2 in. I could try in August, but August is going to be so busy. It's really heating up. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be going on. So yeah, I don't know. I'm lucky I'm squeezing it in, but I'm going to try. So tomorrow is my Live Like Jane Austen for a day. All right. So again, I hope you're doing well. Happy reading. Bye-bye.